History is merciless to those who make poor choices. It does not applaud. It does not comfort. It simply erases. The collapse of a man rarely comes as a thunderclap. It comes slowly, quietly, like a shadow tightening around him. By the time he recognizes the source of his decline, he is already standing over the burial ground of his own potential. The cause is not always weakness. It is often the doorway he allowed another person to walk through, unaware that she carried the spark to burn down his future. No teacher, no friend, no parent gives warning. Society has no incentive to protect him from blindness. But some minds of history understood, and among them stood Machiavelli. He did not write fairy tales of loyalty or sentimental promises. He did not worship the romantic delusions that modern culture feeds endlessly. Instead, he spoke of reality with a sharpness that endures. He observed that men tend to judge with their eyes, drawn to the visible and seduced by appearances. Everyone sees what a woman appears to be, he said, but few truly know what she is. The man of wisdom does not stop at the surface. He studies the unseen rhythms, the values, the discipline that reveal themselves when she believes no one is watching. From this recognition arises the first unflinching law. There are only two kinds of women in a man's life. They are either a benefit or a destruction. There is no vague middle ground, no ambiguous in progress, no safe space where it is complicated. A woman either strengthens the foundation of his mission, or she drains it quietly until nothing remains. The darkness of this truth is sharper today than ever before. Many have perfected the art of appearing supportive while feeding like parasites on ambition and clarity. Sweet words mask subtle sabotage. Compliments hide the hand that pulls him off course. When a man does not guard himself with sovereignty, he mistakes this erosion for love. He calls the very chains on his arms devotion. He names distraction commitment. And by doing so, he deceives himself far more deeply than she ever could. Machiavelli warned that deception always finds those who are willing to be deceived. The man who allows beauty to blind him, who selects a partner based only on surface attraction, has already signed his defeat. The consequences are only a matter of time. The true danger does not lie in the woman herself, but in the failure to discern. In a culture that elevates appearance above substance, it is no surprise that many men fall willingly at the feet of what seems right, ignoring what truly is right. Machiavelli did not write for the romantic. He wrote for rulers, men charged with protecting kingdoms, wealth, and legacies. A ruler cannot afford to let the gates of his city fall to emotion disguised as opportunity. The destructive influence of the wrong partner rarely looks violent. She does not need to shout. She only needs to distract. She does not have to attack directly. She simply weakens his fire by making him explain it, dilutes his focus by calling it harshness, and convinces him that surrender is compassion. Before he realizes it, he has traded his throne for a fragile sense of comfort. The wise man recognizes illusion for what it is. A weapon painted in delicate colors, an emotional snare disguised as loyalty. He does not ask if she is beautiful. He asks whether she can stand beside his vision without seeking to control it, whether she respects his fire without trying to contain it. That is the test, and it must be asked before all is lost. Machiavelli knew that leadership is not a matter of cruelty, but of clarity. He knew that history remembers not the men who gave everything for comfort, but those who guarded their standards as carefully as their crown. To choose wrongly is not simply a personal mistake. It is the surrender of purpose, the betrayal of one's mission, and the quiet death of potential. A woman who undermines masculine authority is a storm hidden in sunlight. Her charm may dazzle, her voice may soften when she wants something, but beneath the surface there is resistance to alignment. When a man chooses such a partner, he invites chaos into his life disguised as affection. She does not follow his direction with trust. She challenges it with doubt, not wisdom. She interprets his strength not as a shelter, but as a threat. And in that moment, He has chosen to negotiate away his own command. Machiavelli understood the fragile nature of power. He warned that when authority is diluted, it ceases to exist. A man who apologizes for leading, who bends his will to appease, loses not only her respect, but also his own sense of identity. He cloaks his surrender with words like compromise, partnership, and balance, but in truth, he has already placed his crown in another's hands. She may smile, she may nod, but deep within she recognizes that he no longer stands firm. When a woman senses a man has no uncheckable spine, she begins to test him, not to torment him, but to measure whether he is real. She applies pressure in moments of weakness, and when he folds, her faith in him erodes. She may not leave immediately. Often she remains long enough to reshape him into a smaller version of himself, long enough to drain his energy, long enough to remind him of the authority he surrendered. In the end, she whispers that he has changed, when in truth he collapsed. Strength does not mean cruelty. It means clarity. A man must know his vision and defend it. He must hold his standards as non-negotiable. Tears, seduction, or argument cannot be allowed to move him from his code. For if they do, he becomes not her partner, but her project. He becomes a puppet to be molded, rather than a man to be respected. Loyalty is not secured through declarations of love. It is secured through an immovable presence that cannot be manipulated. Another truth lies in stillness. Many women can be sweet when attention, gifts, and entertainment surround them. But when the spark fades, when ordinary life demands patience and focus, their true nature emerges. Does she create calm? Or does she stir chaos simply to feel alive? The woman who needs drama to breathe will destroy the very stability that greatness requires. A man cannot afford to bind his future to someone who burns his kingdom out of boredom. Society insists that a woman's past does not matter, but Machiavelli would laugh at such a claim. History is not erased by sentiment. Patterns repeat. A woman who has betrayed others does not begin anew with you. She continues a pattern perfected over time. To dismiss her past is to blind yourself willingly. Her history is your preview of the life you will inherit. To ignore it is to invite destruction under the disguise of novelty. The alignment of a man's legacy with a woman's character must never be overlooked. If she disrespects his mission, mocks his discipline, or trivializes his ambition, she is not an ally but an assassin. The man who binds his destiny to such a person has already agreed to his downfall. True partnership strengthens vision. It does not belittle it. The truth is sharp but undeniable. If she does not fear losing you, she will never truly value you. What is easily kept is easily dismissed. A woman who believes she holds you unconditionally will begin to despise the very comfort you offer. It is not cruelty to hold standards. It is survival. A man who fears losing his purpose loses everything. But the man who guards his mission, who is willing to walk away rather than betray his code, commands not only respect but loyalty. A woman who cannot thrive without constant stimulation is a danger to any man with a mission. The thrill of attention, the gifts, the entertainment, these are not the real tests. The true measure is how she responds when life slows down, when moments of stillness arrive. Does she find contentment in the calm, or does she ignite conflict to fill the silence? A woman who craves disruption will create it. If reality does not provide drama, she will manufacture it herself. And for a man who seeks discipline and legacy, such a trait is poison hidden behind charm. Machiavelli would call this what it is, a sign of an undisciplined soul. A restless heart rarely learns patience, and patience is required for building empires, families, or futures. The man who ignores this warning will discover betrayal not in grand gestures, but in subtle withdrawals. When he focuses on his craft, she resents him. When he builds in silence, she interprets his dedication as neglect. Her hunger for novelty becomes the root of sabotage. And the man who calls it love blinds himself to the slow erosion of his foundation. Society has trained men to believe that her past does not matter, that only the present counts. But patterns cannot be erased by wishful thinking. A woman who has betrayed before will betray again, not out of cruelty, but out of habit. She has learned the mechanics of infidelity, the rhythm of emotional escape, and she repeats it like a perfected skill. If her past is littered with chaos, her future with you will not miraculously be different. Your role will simply be the next chapter in her pattern. This is why the wise man examines patterns, not promises. Words are cheap, vows are easy, but consistent behavior tells the truth. A woman who mocked another man's vision will one day mock yours. A woman who dismissed another man's ambition will not suddenly worship yours. The delusion that love can transform dysfunction is one of the greatest traps a man can fall into. Love does not rewrite history. It only magnifies it. The lesson continues. If she does not fear losing you, she will never value you. Human nature assigns worth to what can be lost. What costs nothing is respected as nothing. If she believes that no matter how she acts, you will remain, she will not rise to meet your standard. She will instead begin to control you, for control thrives in the absence of fear. A woman who cannot lose you will attempt to own you. A woman who knows you can walk away will respect you. This is not a game. It is not about cruelty or manipulation. It is about frame, the ability to hold one's position without compromise. A man who is willing to walk away holds the power. A man who clings to comfort at any price becomes powerless. No woman truly respects the man who trades authority for security, who begs for loyalty with desperation, or who bends his back to avoid solitude. Machiavelli did not write for those seeking comfort. He wrote for those who desired rule. A ruler does not explain his worth to his people, nor does he plead for their loyalty. He sets standards, enforces boundaries, and guards the gates of his kingdom. In the same way, a man must test the woman who wishes to stand beside him. She must be chosen not for feelings alone, but for her ability to multiply discipline rather than dilute it. The wrong woman softens ambition in the name of love. She convinces you that your fire is too demanding, that your vision is too consuming, that your discipline is too rigid. But she does not say this for your good. She says it to make herself comfortable. And the man who accepts her counsel has already betrayed his mission. He has called treason devotion, and in doing so, he has weakened the very structure that was meant to protect his future. A true woman of value does not beg you to soften. She dares you to sharpen. She does not see your ambition as a burden, but as proof of your character. She does not attempt to lower your standards for her comfort. She rises to meet them. This is the difference between a woman who strengthens you and one who weakens you. The wrong woman will tempt you to abandon discipline with the excuse of love. The right woman will challenge you to maintain it, even when it is uncomfortable. She does not want to see you surrender your fire. She wants to see if you can sustain it. It is for this reason that women instinctively test boundaries. Their testing is not born of cruelty, but of confirmation. They wish to know if you are real, if your strength is true, or if you are only performing in order to keep them near. When you hold firm, respect deepens. When you flinch, the illusion breaks and resentment begins to grow. A man who cannot withstand these tests loses authority, not because she hates him, but because she can no longer trust him to lead. Respect is rooted in consequence. Not fear of abuse, but fear of losing something of worth. When a woman knows that your absence is possible, she values your presence. When she believes you will never leave regardless of her behavior, she takes you for granted. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He reminded rulers that mercy without the threat of consequence is weakness, and weakness invites betrayal. A man who wishes to command respect must embody this principle in his relationships. If you allow a woman to remain in your life while she disrespects your mission, your values, or your code, you are not her king. You are her fool. Many men have loved too softly, believing that endless tolerance is devotion, when in truth it is surrender. History is full of men who lost their crowns, not through battle, but through softness disguised as love. They mistook sacrifice for strength and silence for wisdom, only to find themselves emptied and forgotten. But even for the man who realizes he has chosen wrongly, hope remains. It is not too late, though the cost will be high. It may cost your comfort, your pride, your wealth, and years of your life. Yet you must ask yourself, what is more costly, leaving now or decaying slowly over decades? The wrong woman will eventually leave once she has drained you, because nature shows no mercy to a man who refuses to lead himself. The price of staying is always greater than the price of leaving. The truth is sharp. No woman ruins a man's life. He ruins it himself by choosing her. His collapse does not begin at her betrayal, but at his refusal to see her clearly. He excused her red flags. He romanticized her dysfunction. He silenced the voice inside that told him to leave. His downfall was not her action, but his fear of starting over, fear of being alone, fear of admitting he invested in someone unworthy of his legacy. Machiavelli would strip away all illusions and remind the man that he who allows himself to be deceived is already conquered. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is his refusal to raise his standards. He defended her to his friends. He made excuses for her disrespect. He surrendered his purpose in order to maintain her image. And for this he paid with the most precious currency he possessed, his future. The remedy is not another sign, not more waiting, not more patience. The remedy is self-respect. Every moment spent justifying her presence is stolen from the man you could become. She did not destroy you. She revealed the weakness you refused to confront. That version of yourself must die, because no queen will ever follow a man who kneels before his own illusions. You do not rise in life by luck or by chance with women. You rise by being relentless with your standards. The world will not applaud you for this. In fact, it will mock you. It will label you harsh, cold, controlling, toxic. But such voices do not matter. For a man who chooses peace through clarity is richer than the one drowning in chaos, disguised as affection. To stand alone with dignity is far greater than to be surrounded by false loyalty. Machiavelli did not write to comfort fragile hearts. He wrote to sharpen the mind of rulers, men who must protect their legacy against subtle invasion. Every woman you allow into your life is either sharpening your sword or dulling your edge. There is no neutral influence. She is either fortifying your mission or eroding it brick by brick while smiling at your side. And the tragedy is that most men know this in their gut from the beginning. They see the warning signs. They feel the tension. Yet they stay, convinced that their love is different, that their patience will one day be rewarded, that somehow she will finally see their worth. But this hope is an addiction, not a strategy. A man's time is his life. Every moment spent trying to reform a woman who refuses accountability is a moment stolen from his future self. You are not her father. You are not her healer. You are not her redeemer. If she has chosen chaos as her pattern, you cannot convince her otherwise. You only guarantee that her chaos becomes yours. The lie that she will change is the most dangerous illusion you can embrace. She will adapt just long enough to keep you hooked, then return to the same destruction that excites her spirit. The cycle is cruel but predictable. Each compromise you make to avoid conflict chips away at your authority. Each silence you give to preserve false peace corrodes respect. When she senses that you orbit around her approval, she reshapes you into something smaller. You become her project, her puppet, her placeholder. She tests, she pushes, she bends you until she knows you are fully under her influence. And at that moment, she no longer desires you. She may remain, but she remains only to drain. Machiavelli's wisdom here is timeless. A prince who is not wise himself cannot be wisely advised. The man who is weak in his own foundation will always attract those who prey upon that weakness. He will mistake chaos for chemistry, drama for love, and betrayal for passion. He will call himself unlucky, but in truth he is undisciplined. The weakness is not external. It lives within him, unacknowledged and untreated. The cure begins with acknowledgement. Admit that you surrendered your authority. Admit that you silenced your own truth. Admit that your collapse was not fate, but choice. And then rise not for revenge, not to prove anything to her, but for rebirth. The man she stayed with is not the man who will rule his future. The new version must emerge, forged in standards and discipline. No woman on earth is your purpose. Not one. Your mission, your discipline, your legacy, these are your pillars. A woman can support them or destroy them, but she cannot replace them. The men who make women their mission find themselves orbiting emotions instead of goals, begging for validation instead of building empires. And once she senses that she has become your oxygen, she will test whether you were ever built to lead. This is why absence is the ultimate test. Step back, withdraw, observe, see if she multiplies or collapses without your constant attention. If she thrives, if she guards what you have built, then she is worthy of presence. If she withers, if she seeks validation elsewhere, then you have seen the truth that most men are too afraid to discover. Better to see it now than after your kingdom has been burned from within. Most men fail, not because they are weak, but because they were trained to confuse weakness with love. They were told that surrender is compassion, that silence is peace, that betraying themselves is devotion. These are lies repeated until men accept them as wisdom. Machiavelli stripped away such illusions. He warned rulers never to allow enemies through their gates. Yet modern men hand the keys of their hearts to women they barely know, and then cry betrayal when their peace burns to the ground. The truth is harsh but liberating. She did not ruin you. You chose her, and by choosing her, you chose your own destruction. Your standards are not demands. They are shields. They defend your mission from manipulation, distraction, and decline. The man who refuses to enforce them will discover that life punishes softness far more than it rewards it. Society whispers that high standards are arrogance, but history proves the opposite. Without standards, kingdoms fall, armies collapse, and men are enslaved to forces they once believed they controlled. In the same way, a man without standards in his personal life becomes a servant to emotions he cannot master. Do not believe that staying with the wrong woman is loyalty. It is cowardice. It is fear disguised as devotion. Men stay not because they are strong, but because they are terrified of beginning again. They tell themselves it is noble endurance, but in truth, it is paralysis. The wise man acts at once what the fool does eventually. Delayed action is still surrender. The longer you remain, the deeper the roots of destruction grow. The price of leaving will always feel heavy your pride, your money, your comfort, your years. But the price of staying is heavier still. It costs your future. It costs your mission. It costs the man you were born to become. And when all is taken, she will leave anyway, for there is no loyalty to emptiness. The universe does not reward men who refuse to lead themselves. It erases them quietly, as if they never stood at all. A man must recognize that the woman he chooses is not simply a companion. She is either a fortress wall or an open gate. She will either guard his energy or let it be drained. And the tragedy is that most men already know the truth deep inside. Their intuition screams the warning, but they silence it with fantasy. They tell themselves she is different, that patience will change her, that love will rewrite the story. But love does not rewrite history. It only magnifies it. The path forward is ruthless clarity. You must be willing to walk away. You must hold your frame even when mocked, even when called cold, even when misunderstood. For the man who fears losing a woman is already owned by her. But the man who fears losing his purpose commands the world. To place mission above affection is not cruelty. It is wisdom. It is survival. She did not destroy you. She revealed you. She exposed the part of you that craved comfort more than strength, that worshipped fantasy more than truth. That part of you must die, so that a stronger self may rise. For no queen will follow a man who kneels to illusions. Only when you reclaim the throne of your own mind can you build a kingdom that endures. Every woman you allow into your life is either sharpening your sword or dulling your edge. There is no neutral choice. There is no harmless companion. She will either fuel your mission or sabotage it. The lesson is eternal. Guard your gates, raise your standards, and never betray your purpose. History remembers rulers who stood firm. It forgets the men who surrendered their crowns for comfort. And comfort is never worth a kingdom.